Hank Green has a video about Renee Good, and it is just called Truth.
Look, I want to be working on videos about smallpox history and peat bogs and the ocean sunfish. And I would, of course, much rather this video be any of those videos. I don't want to be talking about this. I want, very badly, to be an internet science guy, because that is a very good job. With this fairly low stress. It's very interesting. But one of the things about being a science guy is that truth just feels really important. Because that's what science is, right? It's like a bunch of tools that we use to get a sharper and sharper understanding of reality. As we say a lot on this channel, everything we know is something we figured out. And if you're thinking, and I know some of you are, God, I wish Hank would stay out of politics. I do too. I don't want to be here, but I can't stop thinking about Renee Good. And
I'm gonna be honest, I'm actually kind of all for Hank being in politics. Like, let's be honest here. Let's be honest. There are a few people I have listened to with as good takes as Hank Green because of how much he fucking cares about being correct, about how much he cares about actually researching the shit he's gonna say. So I understand that he does not want to be here, but I think this space is better with him here, personally.
Truth. There are a lot of things that we don't know about Renee Good or the man who killed her. But there are things that we do know. We know that Renee Good turned her steering wheel so that her car would not be pointed toward the officer. Now, certainly the officer may not have noticed that, but we do know that if she had wanted to kill him, she would have acted very differently. And there's some other facts here. Like that Donald Trump said that she viciously ran over an ICE officer, which is not true. And Kristi Noem said that what she did was an act of domestic terrorism, and that is also not true. I was raised in the era of I did not have sexual relations with that woman. I know that politicians lie, but there's something different going on here. They have no chance of getting away with their lies. We all know that she was not a terrorist who ran over an ICE agent. Everyone agrees she would have taken very different actions if her intent were to kill someone. Now, there's probably some people composing a comment right now, either in their heads or down in the comments. They're gonna write, she shouldn't have been doing what she was doing. She shouldn't have been fleeing. She should have been listening to what the officers are saying. This video isn't really about that. It's not about what she should have done. It's not even really about what the ICE agent should have done.
Can we also just, like, real quick, have a quick one-to-one about how fucking weird it is to live in a society where it is expected that a officer of any branch of the law can give you a bunch of arbitrary rules that you must follow, and if you do not follow them, it is socially acceptable for you to be fucking murdered. Not taken to trial, not arrested. They had her license plate number. They literally could have just arrested her at her own home afterwards if they so chose. That's a thing that they had access to. That's an ability they had. Tracking people down in the United States is easy. But when you choose to fucking shoot somebody instead of letting any amount of due process happen, and guess what? I bet you the end result of this is going to be determined entirely by how much people care about it, more than anything. Diamond says, we don't all know that. That's the problem. The right-wing cultists believe that what they're told, even if the facts don't support it. Stagander says, not just that, multiple cops can give you multiple orders. If you don't follow all of them at once, you can be shot. Yeah, 2 different police officers can give you contradictory orders. A single police officer can give you contradictory orders and still fucking summarily shoot you. And that is considered just a accepted norm in American society. Can we all agree that that's weird and that's not a norm we should be accepting? Can we all agree that, like, the Andy Griffith style police officer is an ideal that damn near no police officer lives up to?
I'm not going to show you the video, of course, but it is very clear in the video that the first shot went through the windshield, and the second and third shots went through the open driver's side window. And I know that it's just not my bias saying that this is difficult to justify, because instead of attempting to defend it, J.D. Vance simply lied about it. In a reply to a tweet about this, he said, side window? You could see the photos of the car with bullet holes. The shots came from the front of the car because that's where the officer was standing when he was hit by the car. He is allowed to discharge his weapon in self-defense. The shots came from the front of the car. You could see photos of the car with bullet holes. These 2 sentences astound me, because they indicate that either the vice president has been basing all of his commentary about this situation on an incorrect belief that could be corrected by watching the video that much of America has already watched, or He is perfectly okay lying about well-known and easily discoverable facts. The officer fired 2 shots through an open side window point blank, and J.D. Vance says the shots came from the front and there are bullet holes to back him up. These statements are not true. I don't know anyone who thinks these statements are true. These lies are about very simple, visual, concrete things that millions of people can independently verify for themselves. And this is the thing I can't shake. In science, when someone shows you data that contradicts your claim, you have a few options. You can update your belief, you can argue about interpretation, you can point out limitations, you could even say, I was wrong. What you cannot do, at least for very long, is pretend that the data don't exist. Reality doesn't cooperate with that strategy. What we are watching right now is a set of leaders behaving as if reality is optional, as if the goal is not to understand what happened, but to establish dominance over the narrative as quickly and as forcefully as possible. And this is, of course, unscientific, but it also feels to me like fundamentally disrespectful to the intelligence and agency of the American people. I know that there are some folks who are like along for the ride with these guys. Like some people certainly are fine with the lies because they feel that the lies are in service of some greater mission and that makes them justifiable. But that's not most Americans. Most people see a lie for the disrespect that it is. And this is important. Like this is not a verifiable fact, but do you think that they would be lying about this if they didn't think the shooting deserved more justification than the facts gave us? They'd stick to the truth if they thought the truth was enough. And so I think that they are showing by their actions that they also don't believe the shooting was justified. Otherwise, they wouldn't be lying. I keep thinking,
that's actually a good point that I hadn't considered. It didn't occur to me that that's basically what's happening there. You have a group of people who understand that if the truth of the matter were discussed in its entirety, that they would be held to a set of standards that would not only show that they are wrong, but that they are malicious. So instead, they argue about a completely different set of realities, and like with a lot of conservative influencers, they know that if they just repeat that reality over and over again, people will listen to that version of reality and not actually go verify it for themselves because people that they trust have already done the research for them. Cybershield says, it's insane that my family believes these lies and tell me they watched the whole video. The most I can accept is his foot could have been ran over, and he was close enough when the car was turning as she fled. But I say that could be argued, but if he lacks such injuries, then clearly it didn't. And, of course, he could easily do the stupid fucking thing where he gets a buddy to hurt himself after the fact so that he can claim injury, he can claim that he was injured, because that will end up protecting him more. I'm not saying he is or isn't going to do that. I'm just saying that unscrupulous individuals can find ways to injure themselves so that they can do things like call out of work. They most certainly can do it to avoid 15 to 20 fucking years.
Thinking about this for 2 reasons. First, it matters a lot for America whether or not we are a country where the truth still matters. But second, and this is, I'm sorry, but I keep thinking about Renee Good. She has been treated terribly, and not just by random trolls on the internet or jerk pundits whose job is to get attention, by the men who have been entrusted to lead this nation. And since we cannot know her mind, the best we could do is be honest about the things that we do know, like where the wheels were pointing when she was shot, and where the shots came from when she was killed. And that is, for whatever reason, something that our president and vice president have been incapable of doing. Look.
Yeah. Diamond says he didn't seek medical attention at the time he wasn't injured. That's certainly an angle you could take that. I'm just tired of being lied to, is kind of where I'm at. I'm tired of living in a world where it's okay for the people who have the most power in the country to just lie to people. And let me make sure there are no uncertain terms about my opinion. All politicians lie. It is a part of their job, and it is a frustrating part of their job. There are lies that are done as lies of omission. There are lies that are done because they are lies of promise that cannot possibly be fulfilled. There are lies politicians engage in. I am frustrated that the most obvious lies, the ones where literally the party asked you to deny the evidence of their eyes, it was their final and most important command. I am upset that I live in that fucking world for more than 12 seconds. I live in that world for life. Cyberchill said, I've seen only 2 videos, one from the sidelines, features from the officer in CBS report. Again, I don't think he was able to step back and aim his gun. Either way, I don't think he should have fired, period. I don't think law enforcement should be permitted to use lethal force. I agree with you. I do not think law enforcement should be permitted to use lethal force. I don't. I really don't. Pagewater says, is a license plate enough? If it was enough, the dude who beat me to a pulp on camera might have been prosecuted over escaping in a getaway car, but then again, were extenuating circumstances in my situation that made the prosecutor not file charges, e.g. multiple people in the car, with a degree of plausible deniability. The fact that was taken from me was recovered and bigger fish to fry, I guess. Paige, I am sorry that happened to you. I do not understand what point you are attempting to make. Diamond MX says a license plate is enough when the cops care. Cops care about people who upset them far more than they care about us. Yep. CJ Sonic says, if he wasn't recording, he might have been able to read the situation better. I don't know why no one mentions that. So I will say this. I have actually read the part of the manual that ICE has to read for engagements, and it does say that they are supposed to take out their cell phones and record. Like, regardless of what can be said about that decision, that is a decision that has been, like, literally told to ICE agents as something they should do. And it's because they don't have body cams. Cybershield says, why don't ICE have body cams? Because that would require a budget. Paige says, I think the point is a license plate may or may not be enough depending on circumstances. Right. And I think the circumstances here are they had plenty with a license plate. I think that was my point. My point was surely the license plate is enough here. Cybershield says, can they not equip ICE agents with them if they're willing to spend that kind of budget and training? Robbie says ICE has a bigger budget than most countries' militaries. Yeah, and they'd rather spend it on pretending that they're the fucking Gestapo than on actually doing things that protect American citizens. You know that. That requires ICE agents to care about the law. That requires ICE agents to care about whether or not they are doing well at their jobs, as opposed to fucking LARPing fascists. Vic Vin says, really, at this point, I just think they want a fight to break out so they can declare martial law to take over. I hope we keep protesting and that we keep pushing for justice and action from these terrible events. Agreed. Cyberto says, honestly, that's insane to me, and I have to wonder where that budget is going. It's going into vehicles and guns and bonuses. It's going into trying to give people $50,000 bonuses for being an ICE agent. And yeah, rocket launchers, which is just weird as shit to me. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.